It started with the receipt. Just a folded square of thin, crumpled paper shoved deep into the side pocket of her gym bag, half tucked behind a protein bar and a pack of gum she never liked. I was looking for my earbuds, figured she might have tossed them in there by accident after we swapped cars. That bag had always been a chaotic mess of sweat-damp clothes and self-help books, nothing ever worth a second glance. But something about the way that paper was hidden, almost as if it had been jammed in with intent, made me pause. It was from a boutique baby store. Not unusual, she'd been practically nesting since we got the positive test. What stopped me cold was the timestamp. Last Friday, 2:11 p.m. The exact time she had texted me that she was stuck in traffic on the way back from a prenatal checkup. The store was across town, nowhere near the clinic. I remember staring at that timestamp like it had teeth. That strange, sharp pressure building behind my eyes, not rage exactly, but a tightening like the start of a migraine that wasn't going to let go. I put the receipt back exactly where I found it and walked into the kitchen, where the kettle had just finished boiling. I made tea. Jasmine, her favorite. I even added a touch of honey the way she liked. Everything outward was calm, normal, routine. But inside, something quiet and ancient began turning over, like the slow, deliberate grinding of stone. That night, she curled up next to me on the couch, her belly just beginning to show beneath her sweatshirt. She smelled like vanilla lotion and peppermint gum, like always. Her head rested on my shoulder as she asked if I thought we should repaint the nursery a softer yellow. I told her it sounded perfect. I didn't ask about the receipt. I didn't mention the store. I didn't need to. I was watching now, listening. Every word, every movement, every pause. She yawned at one point, said she was exhausted from the doctor's visit and wanted to sleep early. I kissed her forehead and said goodnight. 2 days later, I found the second fracture. It was the conditioner. Stupid thing to notice, right? But for 3 years, she'd used the same brand, some expensive organic blend that smelled like coconut and mint. The bottle sat untouched in the shower. In its place, a cheaper drugstore brand, half empty. I picked it up. The scent was unfamiliar, muskier, stronger, a little masculine even. That's what caught me. Not just that it wasn't hers, but that it smelled like something a man would use. I placed it back carefully, making sure the label faced the same direction. She had showered at home that morning. Alone. Or so I had thought. That evening, I offered to run her a bath. Told her she deserved to relax, that I wanted her to feel pampered. She laughed, touched her stomach like she always did when the baby kicked, and said I was sweet. I sat on the edge of the tub while she undressed behind the curtain. I asked about the new conditioner. Her voice only hesitated for half a breath, but it was enough. Oh, I ran out of mine and just grabbed whatever was cheapest at the store. No mention of the one she always used still sitting full on the shelf. I nodded, made a joke about the baby making her forgetful. She laughed. I smiled. But the silence between her words had weight. After she fell asleep that night, I stayed awake, lying perfectly still beside her as I traced the fractures backwards. They were always there, in hindsight. The subtle tension in her smile when I brought up names for the baby. The way she flinched when I put my hand on her belly in public. The sudden increase in gym visits, though she never seemed to lose energy. Her phone habits, how it was always face down, always on silent, always in her pocket unless she was charging it upstairs while I was downstairs. She was good. I'll give her that. Methodical. Careful. But she was never quite careful enough. The final fracture didn't come until the next week. I took the day off work, told her I had meetings out of town. Instead, I parked 2 streets away from her yoga studio and waited. She walked in at noon, just like she said she would. Alone. I followed quietly at a distance, crossed the street, and took the alley behind the building. The back door was unlatched. A maintenance guy passed me without a glance. I slipped in, climbed the stairs slowly, and stopped at the top landing near the studio loft. Through a narrow glass slit, I could see into the room. There were only 2 people inside. She wasn't doing yoga. He was tall, lean, hands on her hips as she laughed, head tilted back, eyes closed. His fingers traced the curve of her stomach like it belonged to him. She reached up, touched his face, kissed him once, twice, then turned around so he could press against her back, his lips grazing her neck. It was slow, intimate, familiar. Not lust, something worse. Comfort. History. I stood there for a long time. No emotion. No trembling. No tears. Just an eerie, surgical stillness settling into my bones. I didn't confront them. I didn't knock. I didn't even take a photo. I already had what I needed. Her betrayal wasn't a theory anymore. It was a certainty, and certainty is power. When I walked back to my car, I wasn't a man broken by what I saw. I was a man reborn through it. I started the engine, drove home, made dinner, asked her how class went. She smiled and told me it was a little slow, but good. She was glad she went. So was I. Our life, from the outside, must have looked damn near perfect. Two-story home in a quiet neighborhood, a baby on the way, matching coffee mugs we'd gotten on our honeymoon that somehow made it through 4 years and 2 moves. She taught Pilates part-time. I worked remote in software, nothing flashy, just steady. We had a rhythm. Mornings started with her brushing her hair in the mirror while I made toast. We'd touch hands as we passed each other in the hallway, not saying much, but always in sync. She called me babe more than my name. I used to love that. Now I wonder if she just couldn't say it without lying. At first, the changes were so small I almost missed them. She stopped humming in the shower. I hadn't even realized she'd always done that until the silence felt like static under my skin. Then came the phone habits, little things. She used to leave her phone charging in the kitchen overnight. Now it was always under her pillow or on the bathroom counter, screen down, ringer off. When I asked, she said pregnancy made her anxious, and she wanted to keep her meditation app close. I nodded. That made sense. Anxiety. Hormones. Things I couldn't argue with. I told her I understood. I wanted to believe I did. She started using words like space and individuality like she'd just discovered them. One night over dinner, she said she might take a weekend retreat before the baby came, something for personal grounding. I asked if she wanted me to come. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I think I need to do this alone, she said, sipping water like it was wine, avoiding eye contact. It's not about you. It's about me finding alignment again. Alignment. That word stuck in my head like a bad tune I couldn't turn off. When had we become misaligned? It was around then she started dressing different. Not in a wild, obvious way, but subtly. Her gym outfits were tighter, coordinated. She bought new leggings, new sports bras, high-end brands she never cared about before. Her hair was suddenly always done before she even left the bedroom. Not just brushed, styled. Loose curls, subtle makeup, even for a casual coffee run. I told myself she just wanted to feel pretty again during pregnancy. She'd always been self-conscious about weight gain. Maybe this was just a boost. But the perfume was new. Not the soft, sweet vanilla she used to wear, but something sharper, spicier. A scent that lingered in the air long after she left the room, unfamiliar and deliberately bold. There were other things. Her laughter changed. She used to laugh with her whole body, the kind of sound that filled a room and made me feel like I was in the center of her world. Now it was shorter, sharper. Sometimes I'd hear her laughing from the other room, alone with her phone, and when I'd walk in, she'd go quiet. Tuck the phone away. Just a stupid video, she'd say. You wouldn't get it. And maybe I wouldn't. I started to feel like a stranger in my own house, like I was observing someone I used to know playing the part of a woman who used to love me. The nail in the coffin, the one I ignored even as it cut deep, was the conversation we had in bed one night. She was reading some blog post on self-actualization, glowing in the light of her screen, and out of nowhere, she asked, "Do you ever think we rely on each other too much?" I turned toward her, propped on one elbow. "What do you mean?" She looked thoughtful, distant. Like, maybe part of growing is learning to stand alone, even in a relationship, especially in one. I stared at her, trying to connect the dots. "You feel like you're alone?" She turned to me, kissed my cheek, then rolled over. "I think I just want to feel strong on my own again. Not need anyone. Not need me," she meant. But I didn't push it. I held her close that night, even though she didn't reach back. She fell asleep fast. I stayed awake listening to her breathe, wondering when she stopped doing that little sigh right before she drifted off. Wondering when I stopped feeling like her home. Then came the messages. Nothing explicit. Just glimpses. A notification from Embody Center flashing across her screen when she was in the shower. I tapped it without thinking. It wasn't a fitness reminder. It was a short message. Same time Friday? Can't stop thinking about yesterday. No name. No emoji. Just those words. I locked her phone and placed it back on the sink exactly how I found it. That Friday, she told me she was staying late to help a friend organize a charity event. She came home flushed, smelling like that same sharp perfume, and kissed me a little too softly. Like an apology? Like distance disguised as affection. She changed her Instagram privacy settings a week later. Said she was feeling overwhelmed by negativity online and wanted to make things more intentional. I didn't ask questions. I just nodded, smiled, and poured her a glass of ginger tea. She thanked me and told me I was the most supportive husband in the world. I kissed her temple and said I'd always be there for her. But in my chest, I felt it, the slow, creeping emptiness. The kind that doesn't roar, doesn't scream, doesn't demand attention. It just waits, expands, fills the space between what is said and what is meant. And I knew, without knowing exactly how I knew, that the woman who once looked at me like I was her center of gravity was already orbiting someone else. It happened on a Wednesday, midweek, the kind of day where nothing's supposed to happen. She told me she had a prenatal massage booked at that upscale wellness spa across town, the same one with the leafy walls and overpriced smoothies in the lobby. I nodded, kissed her goodbye, told her to enjoy herself. She wore those soft gray leggings she only used for self-care days, hair pulled up in a casual bun that looked effortless but never was. She smelled like that goddamn perfume again. The one I hadn't bought her. The one that didn't exist in our shared history. As she closed the door behind her, something told me to move. Not paranoia. Not jealousy. Instinct. Pure, unfiltered instinct. So I opened my laptop, logged into our shared car tracking app, the one we'd set up back when her check engine light wouldn't turn off, and she was paranoid about breaking down alone. She'd forgotten about it. I hadn't. The dot moved west, away from the spa. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe traffic. Maybe she had to stop for gas. Maybe she got the time wrong. But then the dot stopped. Not near a gas station. Not a coffee shop. A motel. A crumbling, low-slung chain motel pressed between a pawn shop and a weed dispensary, 20 minutes from the spa. I stared at the location. Zoomed in. It was unmistakable. She had parked behind the building in the shaded alley behind the dumpster. Like she was hiding. Like she'd done it before. I didn't call her. I didn't message. I just sat there, breathing through my nose, watching that dot blink on the screen. It didn't move. Not for 20 minutes. Not for 30. After 40, I closed the laptop gently, stood up, and walked to the kitchen. My hands were steady. My chest was hollow. It wasn't even pain anymore. It was something colder, cleaner. I washed a coffee mug she'd left in the sink. The one with the chip on the rim she always refused to throw away. I dried it, placed it on the rack, then returned to my desk. The dot still hadn't moved. When she came home, her cheeks were flushed, her hair messier than before. She smiled as she kicked off her sneakers, said the massage was amazing. Babe, you'd love this new therapist, so much better than the last one. I watched her speak. Every word was practiced, polished. Her eyes never lingered on mine for more than a second. She headed upstairs to shower. I heard the water running, then her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I didn't even have to check it. I knew it would be locked, but I also knew the preview setting was still on. It was a message from a number saved under the name Chloe B. Yoga. I knew every Chloe she knew. None had that last initial. And none sent texts like, still thinking about the way you tasted. Can't get it out of my head. The air around me thickened, slowed. I stared at the screen until it went dark. My reflection looked back at me. Blank. Alien. I didn't feel rage. Not even betrayal. I felt clarity. As if every suspicion had lined up, each one clicking perfectly into place like a code being unlocked. She wasn't lost. She wasn't confused. She wasn't broken. She was lying. Deliberately. Repeatedly. Systematically. And she thought I was too stupid or too soft to notice. When she came down in a towel, cheeks glowing, steam rising off her skin, I smiled at her and asked how her massage went. She didn't blink. Just slipped her arms around my waist, kissed my neck, and said, perfect. I held her for a second longer than usual. I let her feel my chest rise and fall in a slow, steady rhythm. Then I told her I'd picked up dinner, her favorite place. No need to cook. She looked surprised, pleased. You're spoiling me, she said. You deserve it, I replied. My voice didn't even shake. That night, as she lay beside me, scrolling through maternity blogs and tapping on nursery ideas, I turned slightly to watch her face. She smiled as she swiped through paint swatches. Coral, cream, sage. I watched the curve of her lips as she imagined a future I knew would never happen. She had no idea, no clue that I knew everything, that I'd seen the motel, read the message, watched her world rot from the inside. And I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. That would be too easy, too quick. No, she was going to feel safe, loved. She was going to believe she was forgiven, that her lie had worked. And only when she thought she had won, when her hands were deep in her illusion of happiness, only then would I bury the blade. I looked at her one last time before closing my eyes. She smiled, leaned over, kissed my cheek, and whispered, "I love you." I smiled back. So did I. I became invisible in my own life. Present, smiling, affectionate even, but not really there. Not the way she thought. Every touch, every shared dinner, every soft conversation about the baby's name was just camouflage. I listened carefully, not to what she said, but to what she didn't. Her pauses, her redirections, the way she'd casually mention an errand across town that I knew she didn't need to run. That was my first tactic, soft confirmation. I suggested we go to that same baby boutique together, the one from the receipt. She hesitated, said she was tired, maybe next week. But that same day she left to meet Julie for lunch, and the car tracker showed her 15 minutes from the shop. I didn't say a word. I simply saved the location again. Next, I set up an anonymous email and used it to create a fake social media account, an attractive man, casual enough to be realistic. No overdone photos. Just someone she might believe stumbled across her through a pregnancy hashtag. I followed her. Waited. 2 days later, she followed back. A week after that, she liked a photo. A few days more, she responded to a casual compliment. "You look amazing, pregnancy suits you." Her reply was short but damning. "Thanks, not everyone agrees." She wouldn't talk about us like that to strangers, unless the line between fiction and reality was already blurred in her mind. Still, I didn't engage. I just documented it. Screenshots. Dates. Every keystroke archived. Then I started planting questions. I asked her how Chloe B. was doing, said I remembered her from some event last year. She blinked, confused for half a second. "Oh, yeah, Chloe's great," she said too quickly, like trying to close a door that had already swung open. The next day, the number labeled Chloe B. Yoga stopped texting. I checked her phone that evening while she was in the shower. She'd renamed it to Jessica Nutritionist. Amateur move. But again, I didn't confront. I took pictures. Stored them. I began mapping the messages' frequency using her cloud backup and some software I'd quietly installed on our shared laptop. She hadn't changed her password in years. She didn't think she needed to. I charted the texts by time of day. Always around lunch. Never past 10 p.m. No calls. Pure daytime affair. That told me something. He wasn't single. He had someone to go home to, just like her. That made him predictable. So I waited for her to mention him. Not directly, but through a story. A friend at yoga. A couple she'd met through the studio. And there it was 2 weeks later, over dinner, she talked about how Travis and Elise had just gotten engaged, that she might get lunch with them next week. I nodded, kept chewing. But now I had a name. Travis. I pulled the gym records next. She left her pass logged in on the iPad we used to track expenses. 3 visits a week, she claimed. But the logs only showed one in the last month. The others were manually entered fake check-ins. She was lying to a system that didn't even care. That's how deep it had gone. I traced the billing history. She had a second Venmo account she forgot was linked to our email. Small payments to someone named TL, descriptions like green juice, event tickets, ride share. Cover stories. I cross-referenced the times with the car tracker. Every one of them lined up with a trip near the motel. She thought she was being clever. All she was doing was creating a paper trail. Then I tested the boundaries of her paranoia. I asked if I could borrow her phone to call a coworker, said mine died. She froze, just for a breath, then handed it over, screen already open to the dial pad. But I saw the twitch in her eye, the way her breath caught. I didn't call anyone, just held the phone for 10 seconds. Long enough for her to wonder if I'd seen something. I gave it back, kissed her cheek, told her I loved her. That night, she initiated sex. For the first time in weeks. Too eager. Too desperate. Like she needed to prove something. Like she was terrified I had seen behind the curtain. I let her believe I hadn't. Let her think she was still in control. But she wasn't. I was. I had the logins. The messages. The bank records. I had screenshots of text between her and the man I now knew was Travis Langley, a married yoga instructor with 2 kids and a wife named Elise. I even found their family photos. Happy. Normal. I wondered if he smiled like that when he touched my wife behind a motel curtain. Probably. I didn't care. This wasn't about him. This was about her. About how far she would go. How many lies she'd stack on top of each other before the whole structure collapsed. and I wasn't going to stop it. I was going to watch it fall. And when she reached for me, crying and broken under the rubble, I wouldn't be there. I'd already be standing in the ashes, waiting. The anniversary dinner was her idea. 10 years together. She suggested the restaurant downtown, the rooftop one with the skyline view and live jazz, where we used to go when we still touched each other like we meant it. She made the reservation herself, picked out a silver dress that clung to her the way my trust used to. She asked me to wear the navy suit she always loved, said she wanted to feel like us again. I smiled, agreed, even offered to drive. On the way there, she held my hand and told me she was proud of us, proud of how we'd overcome everything. Her words were carefully chosen, designed to sound poetic but vague enough to avoid specifics. I just nodded, listened, watched the skyline blur past as we climbed the city's spine. When we arrived, she was glowing, hair curled, lips tinted red, the kind of glow that comes from being wanted. But not by me. We were led to a private corner table with a view, candlelight flickering between us, wine glasses catching every glint of her deceit. She looked around, then leaned in and whispered, "Tonight feels right. Like a new beginning." I tilted my head, asked if she really believed that. She smiled, a bit confused, maybe even suspicious. Before she could answer, the waiter appeared with an envelope on a silver tray. "For the lady," he said, and handed it to her. She blinked, looked at me, then slowly opened it. Inside, 3 photographs. Crisp. Undeniable. The first, her pressed against Travis outside that same motel, his hand under her shirt. The second, her on the yoga studio floor, straddling him, captured through the side mirror of his car. The third, a screenshot of their messages, with her last words clear as crystal. "I need you." This baby's not his. Her hand trembled. Her eyes darted around the restaurant like it might collapse on top of her. "What is this?" she asked, voice already fraying. I said nothing. Just watched. She swallowed hard. "It's not what it looks like." Travis, he was helping me process things. I stayed silent. Her breath grew shallow. We were just. I was confused, okay? It was one time. A mistake. You weren't around. You shut down after the pregnancy. I felt alone. Still, I didn't speak. Her voice cracked. "Don't look at me like that. You act like I did this on purpose. Like I meant to hurt you. But what about you? You checked out. You always retreat. I needed something real." Then her posture shifted, she straightened, forced a smirk. "You know what? Maybe it's better this way. Maybe we're both better off. I'm tired of pretending. You're not perfect either." Her smile was thin and cruel. A flicker of control trying to reclaim the room. But I didn't blink. I just leaned in, looked her dead in the eye, and said it quiet, steady, surgical. "You broke something in me I didn't know could be broken, and I will make sure you never feel whole again." Her smirk vanished. Just like that, the color drained from her face. Her fingers curled around the envelope like it might protect her. The silence stretched until the jazz from across the room seemed to echo louder. Diners laughed. Glasses clinked. And she sat frozen, eyes wide, lips parted, as if she couldn't breathe. She wasn't the woman who had walked in here. That woman wore confidence like armor. This one looked like she'd just seen the future, and it terrified her. I didn't move. I didn't stand. I just sat there, letting the weight of what she'd done settle fully on her chest. The photos were still in her lap. She hadn't touched the wine. She didn't speak again. And I didn't give her the chance. She followed me out of the restaurant like a ghost trying to haunt a man already dead to her. Her heels clicked against the pavement with erratic rhythm, breath hitching, as wild as she hissed my name like it still belonged to her. "Say something," she barked as I unlocked the car in silence. "Don't you dare act like the victim here." Her voice cracked under the weight of her unraveling pride. I opened the door, slid into the driver's seat, and let her stand there for a second, just long enough for her to feel the cold air bite through the dress she chose to seduce me into forgetting. When I finally let her in, she slammed the door behind her and immediately spun toward me. "I gave you everything. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to need someone else? You don't even see me anymore." Her hands gestured wildly, face twisted in some tragic mix of rage and desperation. I started the engine. Said nothing. Just drove. Her mouth kept moving. "You smothered me. You always needed everything to be perfect. You wanted some plastic step-forward wife version of me. And when I got tired of playing your little fantasy, you checked out. You retreated into your code, your spreadsheets, your silence. I was alone." I glanced at her once, then back at the road. Her words didn't sting. They barely registered. "I had to find comfort somewhere," she spat. Because you weren't giving me anything. She waited for a reaction. I gave her none. Her voice grew sharper, more vicious. God, you're such a coward. No wonder Travis, she caught herself. Too late. I looked at her then. Just looked. No anger. No hate. Just confirmation. Her eyes dropped. I didn't mean that, she whispered, already recoiling from the truth that slipped past her mask. It was just. I didn't want to hurt you. I turned back to the road. You already did. My voice was low. Even. Surgical. That was the first cut. She stared at me like I'd stabbed her, hand clutching her seatbelt like it might hold her together. I didn't want to lose you, she said softly, testing another angle. Don't you remember how it used to be? We were everything to each other. I didn't respond. I let her sit in that silence. It made her twitch. I'm still the mother of your child, she said, tone turning sharp again. Do you really want to do this now, while I'm pregnant? I let out a breath, half laugh, half sigh. Then you should have thought about that before you got on top of someone else, I said. Second cut. Deeper. She gasped, as if the words had slapped her. You're so cold, she whispered, voice shaking. You used to be kind. You used to love me. I turned to her at the red light, calm and unblinking. I used to love someone who didn't exist. That one landed. Hard. Her face twisted, mouth trembling as if trying to form some kind of comeback but choking on it before it could rise. You want to punish me? She snapped. Is that what this is? You want me to grovel? Beg? Fuck you. You're not a hero here. You're not strong. You're just emotionally dead. A shell. A man with no spine. That's why I needed someone else. Because he actually looked at me like I mattered. I nodded slowly. And now he gets to watch you fall apart too. Third cut. Quiet. Lethal. She didn't speak. Just stared, mouth parted, completely unprepared for the ease with which I carved through her facade. Her eyes welled up, but I knew it wasn't sorrow. It was fear. Not of losing me, she'd already lost me, but of losing control. Her power. The illusion that she could bend this to her will, that she could spin it, manipulate it, reframe herself as the victim. You don't even care, she whispered, voice hollow now. You're just going to walk away? I pulled into the driveway. Parked. Turned to her slowly. No, I said. I'm going to let you stay in this house a little longer. Let you wake up next to a man who already buried you. Let you feel the weight of my silence. Let you realize, every morning, that I'm not yours anymore, but you're still mine, and that's the worst kind of prison. Final cut. Deepest of all. She broke then. Tears spilled down her cheeks in silent shock, breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Her hands trembled in her lap, clinging to the last threads of dignity, but even she knew they were already frayed. I stepped out of the car without looking back, walked up the steps, unlocked the door, and left it open behind me not as a kindness, but as an invitation to walk into a home that no longer welcomed her. And she did. Quietly. Shattered. Still thinking there was a way to fix it. Not realizing the man she was trying to win back no longer existed. Only the architect of her downfall remained. I began the way any strategist begins, with information. I spent 2 straight nights gathering, compiling, organizing every shred of evidence into a perfectly structured archive. Photos, screenshots, audio recordings, GPS logs, text messages, timestamps cross-referenced against locations, video stills from outside the motel, a screen recording of the messages she exchanged with him through a second. Hidden Instagram account she thought I didn't know about. Every file was labeled, dated, and backed up 3 times, cloud, external drive, and a physical binder, sealed and hidden in a safe deposit box under my name only. This wasn't about getting revenge through chaos. It was about dismantling her life brick by brick, using nothing but truth. Truth is sharper than any knife when it's delivered in silence. Once the evidence was secure, I went for the resources. Our joint bank account, drained. Transferred to a private high-interest account I had opened 2 months prior under the guise of saving for the baby. She hadn't noticed. She didn't pay attention to finances, never bothered with the numbers, always left that to me. Our credit cards? I removed her as an authorized user. Quietly. Surgically. No notifications went out, just a decline the next time she tried to pay for her overpriced smoothie or maternity yoga leggings. I froze the shared card she used most frequently, then locked it. She'd have to call the bank to find out why, and when she did, they'd inform her she no longer had access. The car, leased under my name, paid monthly from my income. I scheduled a tow. Not dramatic. No confrontation. Just a quiet pickup while she was at her prenatal class. She walked out, and found an empty parking space. I imagine she stood there staring, thinking it had been stolen. It hadn't. It was in the garage 2 cities away, where I had it rekeyed. She didn't even have a copy of the paperwork. Utilities, also under my name. Electricity, water, Wi-Fi. I scheduled transfers and shutoffs in a carefully staggered order. First the internet, then the water heater. She'd feel it in phases. Slow, creeping inconvenience disguised as technical error, each one chipping away at her illusion of stability. Next, I set the legal machine in motion. I met with the lawyer I'd quietly retained weeks ago, submitted the full evidence portfolio, and initiated divorce filings with clauses for infidelity and full custody claims. I had DNA test orders included preemptively. She didn't know that yet. She still thought the baby might be a shield, a card she could play. It wouldn't be. The documentation was solid enough to crater any argument she might try to make. I filed for exclusive use of the home, citing emotional distress and betrayal. Again, backed with irrefutable data. At the same time, I contacted her employer, not to cause a scene, but to provide them with a curated folder showing that she had been using work hours and work property to coordinate her affair. Her company had a strict ethics policy and a zero-tolerance clause for personal misconduct conducted during business hours. The messages alone, timestamped between meetings from her corporate device, were enough to warrant internal investigation. I didn't send it to her boss directly. I sent it to HR anonymously, with clear, itemized references. They'd connect the dots, and they'd act. I made sure to notify her parents. Not with anger, not with accusations, but with calm, indisputable proof. I called her father first, calculated, because he was old-fashioned, traditional, a man who once told me that nothing is lower than dishonor in your own home. I sent him a password-protected folder and asked him to call me after reviewing. When he did, there was a long silence on the line. Then he said, "Thank you for your restraint." I didn't need to say anything else. He would handle the rest. Her mother texted me later that night. One line, "I'm so sorry. She doesn't deserve your grace." I sent the same file to her 2 closest friends. The ones she gossiped with. The ones who cheered her on for taking her space, without knowing what that space really was. No commentary. No threats. Just the truth, delivered cold. I didn't burn the bridges. I removed her from them, one by one. Let her stand alone on an island she built out of lies. And still, through all of it, she had no idea. She walked around the house wearing her robe, humming occasionally, asking what I wanted for dinner, pretending like that night at the restaurant was just a bad dream we'd both agreed to forget. She didn't notice I was measuring the nursery for furniture I would never let her see. She didn't see the file cabinet getting lighter, or the digital photo albums being backed up, then wiped. She thought we were moving forward, that we were healing. But I wasn't healing. I was sharpening. Every smile I gave her now was a decoy. Every nod a calculated delay. The real strike hadn't come yet. She thought she had time to fix this, to manipulate the narrative, to cry just right and beg just enough. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't planning to leave her. No, that would be too kind. I was planning to let her watch everything she thought she still had get peeled away, gently, methodically, like a mask she could no longer hold up. And when I finally walked away, it wouldn't be with anger. It would be with everything. It happened at the baby shower. The one she insisted on organizing herself, claiming she wanted a celebration of healing, where everyone who matters could come together and honor the new chapter. She sent the invitations herself, coordinated the catering, even had personalized cupcakes made with tiny pastel frosting footprints. Her smile was wide when people arrived, arms outstretched in performative warmth, hugging relatives she hadn't spoken to in months, laughing too loudly at every joke, glancing over at me every few minutes as if to confirm I was still playing my part. I played it well, wore the button-down she liked, smiled when spoken to, nodded when addressed. Silent, civil, cold beneath the skin. What she didn't know was that nearly everyone in that room had already seen the file. I'd sent it out 3 days before. Her parents, her best friend, my siblings, even Elise Langley, the wife of the man she called Comfort. No captions, no dramatic monologue, just facts, images, a timeline of betrayal, messages, motel timestamps, kiss stills. Enough to silence a room forever. I didn't have to say anything. I just let the truth do the work. She stood in the center of it all, glowing under the paper lanterns, thanking people for their gifts, her voice sweet and hollow. Then it started. Her father approached first, gift in hand, but his eyes were dead. He handed her the package without a word, turned, and walked out. No hug. No smile. Just absence. She laughed awkwardly, looked around, tried to play it off. Dad's being so weird lately, she joked to a friend who didn't laugh back. Her mother followed him a few minutes later, jaw clenched, eyes wet. Then came the friend shift. Her two closest girlfriends, once her shadows, moved to my side of the room. They smiled at me, hugged me, called me strong. She watched from across the punch table, her mouth frozen in a half-smile that never landed. Her laugh became forced, louder, more frantic, trying to fill the silence she was too afraid to acknowledge. People started whispering. Not loudly, not obviously, but she could feel it. The kind of whispering that seeps into your skin. One woman asked, "Are you okay?" In that particular tone, the one that's not really a question but a warning. Her hands began to fidget. Her eyes darted. She pulled me aside, smiling too wide. "What's going on?" she hissed under her breath, eyes wild. "Did you say something to someone?" I didn't reply. Just looked at her. Calm. Detached. And that was the crack. That silence. That complete lack of defense or explanation. Her smile twitched. Her nostrils flared. "Did you send them something?" she asked again, louder this time, voice rising an octave. Did you poison my shower?" Guests started turning. Heads tilted. Cups lowered. I didn't flinch. Just stared. She spun around, eyes scanning for allies, finding none. Her best friend met her gaze, shook her head slowly, and turned away. "Oh my God," she said, staggering back a step. You can't do this to me. I'm the mother of your child." Her voice broke on the last word. The room went quiet. A cupcake slipped from a child's hand and splattered on the floor. Her face twisted, trying to hold the mask in place, but her body betrayed her. Her legs trembled. Her chest heaved. "None of you understand," she snapped, now addressing the room, her tone lurching between anger and desperation. "You think you know everything, but you don't. I was alone. He left me alone. I had to survive." No one moved. No one answered. One of her aunts walked toward the door without looking at her. "You're all sheep," she muttered, shaking. "He's manipulating you. This is emotional abuse. He's lying." Her voice cracked again, that sharp edge giving way to something broken underneath. Then, finally, she turned back to me. Her eyes wide, wet, pleading. "Please," she whispered. "Tell them it's not true. Tell them you're just angry. That we're working through it. Please, please don't do this. Not like this." I looked her in the eye and didn't say a word. That silence hit her harder than any scream ever could. She staggered back like I'd slapped her. Her hands flew to her mouth, then dropped. "Say something," she whispered. "Please. Just say anything." But I didn't. I stood there while her world caved in around her. While every person she once counted on slowly turned their back. While the whispers turned to stares and the stares turned to avoidance. No one comforted her. No one offered her a chair. She was left standing alone in the middle of a party meant to celebrate the life she was bringing into a world that no longer wanted to celebrate her. And I watched. I watched it all burn with the calm patience of a man who'd already walked through the fire. She broke in real time. Her hands shaking, her knees giving out as she slumped into a chair meant for gift opening, her mascara streaking as she realized no one would sit beside her. Not even me. And that was the moment she truly understood. That she hadn't just lost me. She'd lost everything. It happened 2 days after the baby shower, when everything was still smoldering but she hadn't yet accepted the fire had already gutted her. Her parents called a family dinner, hoping to salvage some sense of control, pretending this was just a misunderstanding that could be discussed civilly. I agreed to come. So did she. The table was set neatly, like none of it had happened, like the lies weren't choking the air. Her father sat at the head, stone-faced, her mother quiet but red-eyed. My brother was there, silent and observing, and her best friend showed up uninvited, probably hoping to witness the collapse in person. She walked in like she still had a role to play, chin up, dress crisp, makeup layered thick enough to hide the cracks, but not the shake in her hand when she set her purse down. I barely looked at her. That alone rattled her more than any insult. It began civil, forced smiles, passive remarks. Then she tried to open her mouth and rewrite the narrative. "I know things got out of hand," she said, her voice thick with that trembling kind of fake sincerity, "but I just want everyone to understand I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I laughed. It wasn't loud, just sharp enough to cut through the room like glass underfoot. Her eyes flicked toward me, instantly defensive. What? She snapped, the smile cracking. Something funny about a woman trying to explain herself? I turned my head slowly, met her gaze. You didn't mean for it to happen? I said, voice calm but laced with venom. You didn't mean to sneak into a motel for 2 months straight? You didn't mean to tell him the baby might be his while lying to my face every night? That's not something that just happens. That's strategy. That's rehearsed betrayal. Her mother gasped softly, covering her mouth. Her father shifted in his chair like he wanted to leave but was too ashamed to stand. She blinked fast, already unraveling. I made a mistake, she tried. I slammed the table once, flat-palmed, not violently, just enough to make every dish rattle. No. You made choices. Over and over. Deliberately. Behind my back. In our home. And then you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me. Her face twisted, rage clawing to the surface. Oh, don't you dare act like some martyr. You were cold. You were absent. You checked out of this marriage years ago. And you checked into someone else's bed. I fired back. Don't pretend this was about healing or growth or whatever garbage you fed your friends. This was about attention. About ego. You wanted to feel wanted, and the moment someone else looked at you, you threw away everything we built like it was trash. She stood now, hands trembling, voice raised. Because you made me feel like I was trash. Like I was just some incubator with a cleaning schedule. You want to talk betrayal? You stopped seeing me. You stopped touching me. Do you know what it's like to feel invisible in your own house? No, I said coldly, standing to meet her eye to eye, but I know what it's like to be invisible in your life. To give everything I had to this marriage while you were busy sending selfies to your yoga instructor. To plan a future with a woman who was planning her next lie. Her best friend covered her mouth, shaking her head, whispering, "Oh my God." Her father spoke up then, low and rough. Is it true? He asked, staring at her like she was someone else entirely. She turned toward him, but she didn't answer fast enough. I saw the texts, I said. I have everything. The hotel receipts. The messages. The pregnancy doubts. You want to keep pretending this is some emotional misunderstanding. Go ahead, but don't lie to the man who raised you to be better than this. That cracked her. Fine, she shouted, eyes welling with fury and shame. I cheated, okay. I cheated. But don't act like you were perfect. Don't act like you didn't push me there. The room gasped. Her voice trembled now, desperate. You were a ghost, and I was alone, and Travis, he actually listened. He actually wanted me. That name hit the ear like poison. And like fate had scripted it, the front door opened, and there he was. Travis. Fool enough to show up, thinking he could salvage something. He froze in the entryway, eyes wide as the room turned to him. She spun, shocked, embarrassed, terrified. What are you doing here? She demanded. You texted me, he stammered. Said you needed me. The silence that followed was deafening. She turned to me, face pale. You? I sent it, I said flatly. Figured it was time your fantasy life and your real one met face to face. Travis backed away like he'd stepped on a landmine. I didn't sign up for this, he muttered. You said you were leaving him. That this was over. It is, I said, stepping forward, towering between them. For both of you. She lunged then, grabbing my wrist, eyes frantic. Please, please don't do this. Don't destroy me in front of everyone. We can fix this. We can try again. For the baby. For us. I looked down at her hand on me, then into her eyes. There is no us, I said, loud enough for the whole room to feel it. Just the wreckage you created, and the man who walked away from it untouched. I pulled my arm free. She collapsed into the chair behind her, sobbing. Her parents looked away. Travis was gone. My brother stood behind me like a wall. And I walked out, leaving behind a silence that said more than any scream ever could. She disappeared for a while after the explosion, after the baby shower, the family dinner, the public detonation of her curated little lie. For weeks, I didn't hear a word. The house was quiet. Peaceful. The scent of her perfume finally faded from the bathroom tiles. Her things sat boxed in the garage, untouched. I didn't throw them away. I wanted her to know they were still there, waiting, rotting. The silence was her echo. Word reached me through mutual friends and coworkers, whispers that didn't seek attention, just inevitability. HR had launched an internal review. The messages she sent during work hours, the affair coordinated from a company device, the quiet nod from someone who saw the folder I left behind. She wasn't fired, not officially. They gave her the option to resign. Discreetly. Professionally. A resignation masked as personal reasons, but the office knew. People always know. Her friends, The ones who used to back her unconditionally vanished like fog in daylight. She became an online ghost. No comments, no stories, no birthday posts. One by one, she was removed from group chats, brunch photos, vacation plans. She tried to post inspirational quotes for a while, something about growth, forgiveness, self-love. No one liked them, not even bots. Eventually, the account went dark. Travis disappeared too. The yoga studio restructured, and he left town before I could blink. No goodbye. No explanation. Just gone. Like he never existed. Like she never mattered. When she reached out for the first time, it was a voicemail. Her voice was cracked. Flat. "I miss you," she said. "I think about you every night. I still love you. I don't know how I became this version of myself. I hate her too." I didn't respond. A week later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. Desperate. She said she was living in a sublet apartment an hour away, working a part-time job at a boutique store run by a woman who didn't know her name, didn't ask about her past. She wrote that she wasn't eating much, that the silence in her life was deafening, that every night she dreamed about our child and what we could have been. She asked if we could meet. "I just need to see your face," she wrote. "Please. I don't want to die as the villain in your memory." I burned the letter without reading the rest. Days later, she showed up. Unannounced. Hair tied back, no makeup, clothes loose and worn. Her eyes were bloodshot, hands wringing the hem of her sleeve like it might save her. I didn't let her in. She stood on the porch, sobbing. "Please," she choked out. "I made a mistake. A horrible mistake. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I needed something else. I thought you didn't care. But you did. You always did." I didn't speak. Just stood in the doorway, looking at her like a stranger begging for shelter in a house she once tried to burn down. "I'm not that woman anymore," she whispered, voice shattering. "I want to make it right. I'll do anything. I'll take therapy. I'll move away. I'll come back when I'm better. I'll wait for you. Just please, please don't hate me." I looked at her for a long moment. No anger. No pity. Just the final clarity of a man who survived the hurricane and no longer feared the rain. "You're not that woman anymore?" I said, my voice quiet, cutting. "That's the problem. She's the one I married." Her knees buckled. A sound escaped her lips that wasn't quite a sob, more like a collapse of breath, a surrender of everything she'd tried to hold together. She didn't say another word, just turned, trembling, and walked away. I watched her go, not because I cared, because I wanted to remember the exact moment the ghost of my wife disappeared. I closed the door, locked it, walked back into the stillness. My life was clean now. Cold, maybe, but clean. And sometimes, that's the only piece left to claim. She lost everything. I lost the illusion. I think I came out ahead. So let me ask you, what would you have done if it was your wife?